Al-Ja'fari at the UN Security Council stresses that the Syrian media is targeted because of its role in exposing the true reality of the armed terrorist groups. Takfiri terrorism escalates its attacks against service institutions and civilian infrastructure. Egyptian army confiscate weapons and ammunition in Sinai and Port Said. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Dr. Bashar al-Ja'fari, said that the national professional media is targeted by terrorists and the states which sponsor and support them. Addressing the UN Security Council's session on the situation of civilians and journalists in armed conflicts, al-Ja'fari added that the Ministry of Information has granted, since the beginning of 2013 till now, access to more than 300 reporters from different media outlets from various world countries into Syria and gave them the opportunity to work freely. Al-Ja'fari added that Syria lost journalist Muhammad Dirar Jammo, who was assassinated by armed terrorist groups which receive weapons and money from the same sides which are supporting the armed terrorist groups in Syria. Al-Ja'fari pointed out that some journalists are still illegally infiltrating into the Syrian territories through the borders with the neighboring countries with the help of the armed groups, adding that some of them were arrested and then they were released to leave the Syrian territories. Al-Ja'fari explained that the Syrian government was committed to cooperate with former UN envoy Kofi Annan to implement his 6-point plan, including the 5th article of the plan concerning the entry of journalists, adding that the government submitted the names of the journalists who entered Syria between March 25th and May 21st, 2012, who represented more than 166 Arab and foreign media outlets. He went on to say that the government exerted enormous efforts with the International Committee for the Red Cross and the Syrian Arab Red Crescent to liberate the kidnapped journalists and evacuate the injured and bodies of the killed journalists from the areas where the armed terrorist groups are present. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Abbas Araghchi dismissed as groundless the allegations on Iran's sending weapons to Syria through the Iraqi airspace. Araghchi stressed in a statement to the press about what have been reported on Iran's sending weapons to Syria across the Iraqi airspace, stressing that these allegations were raised by those who are deliberately arming and training terrorists against the Syrian people and government with the aim of hindering the international community's efforts to find a political solution to the crisis in Syria. He said that the Iraqi government has conducted intrusive inspections of some Iranian planes bound for Syria, and in all cases it was officially announced that these planes were not carrying any military equipment. The commander of the land force in the Iranian army, Brigadier Ahmad Rida Bordestan, said that new simulation devices and Scorpion personnel carriers would be ready to use by the end of 2013. He referred that the Iranian armed forces is also working on the project of modernizing and developing Nazihat rocket. He added that preparations were completed to carry out the military exercises for the armed and artillery forces southeast of the country. An armed terrorist group attacked this morning gas and fuel transfer pipelines that feed electric power generation stations in the southern region. In a statement, Minister of Electricity Imad Khamis said that the generation stations completely went out of service as a result of the terrorist attack, and a blackout prevailed in the provinces of Dar'a, Suwaida, Qunaitira, Damascus and Damascus countryside. Khamis pointed out that about 20% of the southern region's need from electricity electricity were ensured, asserting that the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources maintenance workshops started rehabilitation works. Within the framework of targeting media institutions and journalists, terrorists threw a bomb on the radio and TV center in Homs, causing the wounding of 2 journalists and huge material damage to the building. Another mortar bomb was launched into the vegetables market in An-Nazha area, causing the wounding of a man and huge material damage to cars and nearby buildings. A 3rd bomb was thrown by terrorists on a residential building near the church of Mar Afram in Al-Adawiya neighborhood, but no casualties were reported. Meanwhile, 3 people were killed and several others wounded as a result of a terrorist attack with a mortar bomb that fell on a school in a Dablan neighborhood where scores of displaced families are taking refuge there. A top-ranking security source said that the Jordanian Desert Forces arrested 12 Somalis who were trying to infiltrate illegally into Syria. News sources confirmed that hundreds of Arab and foreign terrorists were able to enter Syria illegally to join the armed terrorist groups and commit acts of murder and robbery against the civilian population. Dozens of local residents organized a protest in the city of Al-Arish in front of a security headquarters, condemning the state of security lawlessness spreading north of Sinai and the repeated attacks against Egyptian police centers by armed terrorist groups. Protesters called on security authorities to punish those who violate laws and confiscate the weapons of gunmen in several areas. Egyptian security authorities, meanwhile, arrested 10 gunmen and confiscated weapons and explosives in the governorate of Al-Qalyubiyya. Yesterday, 3 policemen were killed and 3 others injured when gunmen attacked a police station in Al-Arish city. Over to Libya, where fierce clashes erupted among several Libyan armed groups in the capital Tripoli. Libyan sources pointed out that heavy machine guns and RPG launchers were used during the clashes. Meanwhile, a number of policemen took to the streets to protest against the violence perpetrated by armed groups in different areas, which prevent them from performing their duties. In Bahrain, a booby-trapped car exploded near the Royal Council Center south of the capital, Al-Manama, causing no casualties. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Interior confirmed that a terrorist explosion has occurred inside a mosque in Al-Rifai area. Bahraini opposition condemned these explosions, expressing rejection for any terrorist act which targets civilians, calling for finding a peaceful solution to the crisis in Bahrain. Now over to latest business and market news, but after a short break. Stay tuned.